On the question of River Yala, what would you tell Kenyans about, because this was happening also under your watch, this Ministry of Interior, that you had no sodding idea about these incidences of the retrieved bodies from River Yala?
Immediately it came to our notice. We did what the law required us to do, namely launch immediately an investigation into the matter. By the way, the other day I was joking in my mind about this issue, and I asked for records because I had got some research assistant to dig up the records, not just on the issue of the River Yala, but how many times I went to Parliament as Minister for Interior to answer questions on forced disappearances, people who had who could not be accounted for, and so on. And I discovered that in my tenure, I had been invited to Parliament 3 times on issues related to the forced disappearances and individuals who could not be accounted for. And out of this, actually, it's only one incident I can recollect when a member of Parliament, I think from the northeastern part of the country, was very accurate on the information that they had on these forced disappearances and so on. You see, the issue is this. Throughout life, everywhere you go, even since we started this interview, some crime has been committed somewhere. The question is not whether or not the crime has been committed. The question is, what did you do when that crime was committed? And then secondly, if really you were in the line to take action at that point in time, what action did you take? And because some of these actions are not protected by the statute of limitation, it can follow you even 20 or 30 or 40 years even after you have left the office. That is why I am the first one to tell people we acted. This matter, I wouldn't not say that we did not know. We got to know about it. All of us in the National Security Council discussed this matter. If you go to the records of the National Security Council, you'll find minutes during which we discussed this matter. The Inspector General of Police, the DCI came on board, the Director of Intelligence then, and everybody. And we concluded at that particular time as a National Security Council that between a public inquiry and an investigation that would file a report, let's open a file and commence investigations on the matter. And as I've said before, we never left, government is acting in perpetuity. It exists beyond the individuals who are in office at any point in time. If an issue has happened, for example, here, and people feel it has not been properly investigated, nothing stops the government from investigating it afresh if they feel there's new evidence coming into it and so on and so forth. On this particular one, I have called for a public inquiry on the matter so that if people have information that's contrary to what I am giving, they make it out in public. Or if people know that there was either laxity or dereliction of duty on the part of those who are supposed to act, they demonstrate it in a public inquiry or they demonstrate it in a public institution. We acted as the law required us to act. It's like people ask me, Dibal, how did you people allow, sometimes I go to meetings and people tell me, where were you when the elections were happening? We don't believe these elections were free and fair. The election could have been rigged. How did you as a government allow, like someone was telling me the other day, you as an explanation, how did this happen? And I tell them, go and read the law and have someone help you understand it. When the electoral period begins, their powers you will not exercise as Minister for Interior. Elections are a matter of the chairman of the Electoral Commission and the Commission. They begin acting. Under the law, I can't order the chairman of the Electoral of IEBC. If, for example, I also wonder, like in the case of 2022, I also ask the question, why did the IBC suspend the gubernatorial election in Kakamega and Mombasa? To this day, I don't understand. I was not the chairman of IBC. I was not even a commissioner. I didn't have powers to ask the question, or I didn't have powers to force the late Chebukati and his people to do something. There's nothing I could do. The law has got the same shortcomings. It places you within a framework where you have to act within the powers that you have at that point in time. The question is, did you act? Yes. If people feel it was insufficient action, that's why I'm saying let's have a public inquiry.
So you feel it was insufficient from your assessment?
No, the question is, I believe
you don't take responsibility?
I believe we did what we were expected to do. And I believe, let me say this on record, we acted very responsibly, like any responsible government would act. Now, if someone has got contrarily...
what is responsibly? Because if the rivers is, keep on, shoring up the bodies, they're being found time and time and again, what do you characterize as you acted responsibly? And there is no accountability.
if an investigation is going on, Dibal, I want to go over this argument in a very patient manner. If a crime has been committed, you are a responsible person in that particular docket. You occasion an investigation of that crime, and the investigation points you to a particular destination. If the investigation say it is Dibal who killed those people, the law takes over from there, and Dibal is arrested and prosecuted. If, as a minister, I have gone to the National Security Council, and the matter has been raised there by security chiefs, all of whom sit at the National Security Council, we have discussed the matter. Beyond that decision that let this matter be investigated and let the file be open, until the matter has been logically investigated and culprits have been found.
But we have an issue.
I want to be...
let me just butt in. We have an issue also who is investigating. Because we have the National Coroner's Act right now that has never been operationalized. If we had an independent body, we have a forensic laboratory to try and investigate these bodies that were coming from River Yala, we'll, as Kenyans, will feel we are satisfied because we have a Director General who is independent. But if you're telling us about investigations that is being carried out from your own security agencies, how do we know there is no cover-up of what was happening on River Yala? And again, will tell us why the National Coroner's Act has not been operationalized. Since also when, if I may remember, you may correct me as well, it was enacted up to now. We should be having a forensic laboratory that is well equipped and to have independent Coroner Director General.
We can split hairs on this issue until the cows come home. The point is this, very plain and straightforward. There's some strange imagination that people have that I'm not able to deal with. The law is as clear as it is. I didn't write it. And then second, when you go into an office, you act, as I said, responsibly. You ask yourself, what does the law allow me to do here? There are some cases where you will even suspect that this matter has been done by so-and-so, it has gone this direction. You patiently say, the law requires me to investigate this matter and come to a conclusion on the situation. You see, all those issues you're asking me about the coroner's office, why it doesn't exist, and so on. I am not a minister. I am an ordinary individual. I left that docket 3 years ago.
Yes, you did, but of course, the Act, even when the Act came into place, you were not the minister then?
And then secondly also, please let's stick with the issue that we are dealing with first. The investigations that have happened, there are so many investigations that are not complete because of the complexities of the crimes that have happened before. I have often pointed this out and I'll point it out all the time. There is no minister who has powers to either expedite or take over the investigations themselves and go and do them because you are either unhappy about the pace that they are following or you know that they should be done in a particular way. We all submit ourselves to the law. And how we submit ourselves to the law is that the DCI opens the file and stays on the matter until they get the culprit. If the culprit include the minister is not above the law. He is punished or prosecuted. Honestly, I don't know what we are discussing on this matter because beyond the action of the National Security Council, there is nothing else the council could do at that particular time except insist on those investigations to be done. Mm-hmm. Crimes are not going to end today or tomorrow. They will be committed all the time. The question usually is, what did you do? Even all these matters on forced disappearances, the question the public keeps asking all the time is that, is due process being followed? Are investigations being done? Are we going to the logical conclusion of this matter? You could very easily emotionalize the debate, talk about the individuals or hurl insults at the individuals, in which case then the focus is lost.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, but still on hovering on academia. Recently also we saw teachers who went to State House and there are claims that each was given 10,000 shillings. If you can dial back, the time machine, and you were the CS of education, will you have accompanied the teachers?
I wouldn't do anything like that. Some of these things are jokes that you feel, you feel very angry about. A country like Kenya, and this is the reason why, Dibal, I'm telling you, Kenya is better than this, and we all need to summon the energies and efforts we can master to help our country move in the right direction. But let me answer your question more directly. Dibal, you take 10,000 teachers to State House. These are leaders of the teaching profession in the country, whether they are Kupet or KNUT or whatever.
Yeah, but is that a confirmable fact that they were given 10,000 shillings?
I don't know. It's speculative.
Yes.
I don't work for State House. I don't know those characters who do those things, and they are very liable things I wouldn't do myself. Then you go and give them. Let us assume that because we are all working on reportage, let us assume that reportage is correct. If you have 10,000 teachers at State House, you give them 10,000 shillings. That's 100 million shillings. The teachers meant to cover insurance. That line item for TSC is 17 billion shillings. If you look at how that tender was executed and how the teachers' insurance cover was given, those who ended up with that business are the people who are connected to the powers that be. Mm-hmm. The teachers are not getting any health services. Before I came here this morning, I was talking to a friend of mine who has just paid a bill of 100,000 for his sister, a teacher who was admitted the cover could not pay. Now, 17 billion, probably looted or probably stolen through all manner of connections. And then 100 million for teachers, leaders, each one of them getting 10,000 shillings. That 10,000 shillings cannot even pay their bill tomorrow if they are sick. Why do we even bribe? Why does the government bribe people? Why as a government do you bribe people?
Why should we be raising hesitation if we have the teachers who are going there? We've had also the business community going there to meet the president. We know other communities have been going there. So why is everyone really taking special umbrage with the teachers going to State House?
No, by the way,
why would you?
By the way, I wouldn't have a problem. The president should meet his citizens because those are the people who have employed him. But the question is this: is that the format in which management of issues is supposed to be done? Are we supposed to do that? Would you get 55 million people to State House every other day and give them 10,000 shillings each? Or else, if you wanted to be fair to the teachers, then surely then every teacher should find in their bank account 10,000 shillings at the end of this month. Since the president is behaving like Father Christmas and is happy enough to give them 10,000 shillings each, why give only those ones who are the leaders? Let then if it's a gift from a magnanimous, benevolent, God-sent president, let then each one of them get 10,000 shillings in their account. The question I'm asking is that really the right way we should manage public affairs? And if you ask me, in my honest opinion, I don't know, but in my honest opinion, I don't think it's the right way. So you ask me the question, is that something I would do? The answer is no, I wouldn't do it. Because it doesn't make any sense at all. Because you have people in a jamboree out there, basically it's a, if you allow me to say, it's a very old style way of power display, mm-hmm. and some sort of irrelevant public relations. You almost feel like we're getting to an era in our country, we have government by bribery and public relations. So that you know, and by the way, if you want to be analytical, you answer the question, why is that being done? Why must you do it? Why must you always boss people around, give them money and so on? I mean, governments do things, and when people feel the things they do and go ahead, leaders have conversations with the other leaders and move the country forward. But you see, if you are bossing people up and down, giving them money in an unsustainable manner, by the way, because you see, as I said, will you get 55 billion people to State House and give them 10,000 shillings? Anyway, the question you asked directly is, would I do it? And I've told you I wouldn't.
You wouldn't, but you've always had scruples as well with the visitation of the deputy president in your domain, in your turf, way back in Kisii. Yeah, you on record said they've been there like 9 times and dishing out, 100 shillings, 64 shillings. Empowering. What is this empowerment that they're talking? Why would you have scruples with that as well?
By the way, I have no scruples about that lovable and bizarre. And by the way, that is the basis on which I say Kenya is surely better than this. We can do better things than this. We are capable of being better people, managing our country better than this. How can you wake up every week you are the deputy president of the country. You are flying to a particular corner of the country. Like now I was telling people from my neck of the goods that they have become suddenly objects of love from government. They are loved so much. The government people are there every other day. They fly in helicopters. They arrive there. One day they were in 9 choppers. They land there. And they love them so much, they arrive and give them 64 bob each. Then they give them 100 shillings each. That is how they love them so much. They want them to support them. Honestly, I don't know anything more silly than that. And then secondly, the way you run public affairs and the way you want to run public affairs is government to get some work done. And it is obviously for a particular reason why that is being done. And that is not improving the lives of those people in any material way. To arrive there and do those kinds of things is actually to abuse the intelligence of those people. And no wonder all the time they're using animal imagery. It's because they look at these people as animals. It's the way you get your cows and you give them napier grass so that you can milk them. And and so on. So these people, you arrive, you give them 64 bob or 100 bob and hope that they will impoverish. It's a very, if you were to analyze, it's a very Stalinist way, impoverish people into subservience. Don't do anything, don't give them services. They are so poor, so that when you arrive with 100 shillings, they are supposed to kneel down and worship you. 62 years after independence, is that how we are supposed to be managing our public affairs? Honestly, I was saying, if you calculate in the last 2 months or so, if you look at the deployment of ferrying trips to State House from my part of the country, if you have deployed 350 million shillings, let us assume, Dibal, we are not foolish people. If you have deployed 350 million shillings in that kind of endeavor, take 10 million shillings to a school, each school. You will do 35 secondary schools in those 2 counties of Nyamira and Kisii. And each one of them will have a very good laboratory, and they would have facilities, and you will alleviate some of the challenges that the parents have in that particular place. Leadership is about problem solving. And what problem do you solve with 64 shillings? It's a joke.
So honestly, you're putting it to us that this is a Starlink sort of, system of governance where you're defrocking, I know there's this analogy they normally, quote, I don't know how accurate it is, of a chicken being, denuded, defrocked. And he says, he was telling his military men that you can see the way I'm trying to, defrock this chicken. And afterwards, when now it is so denuded, without any feathers, you still drop, the maize grains for the chicken to come, and it will come to your feet to come and eat it again. Is this what politicians are doing? Honestly,
my brother, what's the difference? Let me ask you.
So is it really backed in our system?
What's the difference? It's a style. It is a political ecosystem that has been set by the leaders of the day. The ecosystem is driven by, don't reason with people. Don't engage with them, and don't work for them. You don't have to work for them. Why work for them? Loot their money and loot their wealth. And small change you say from the looting, you can show it off by giving the money. And when you give them that 100 shillings or 200 bob, you are such a hero. You are supposed to be worshipped because you are called a great man, because you are the one who brought 100 bob or who brought 64 shillings. And not when you do tangible things. Do you imagine, and I want you for a moment to pause, fortunately for us, those of us who are in this day and age, we have lived through administrations where work has been done. Do you actually imagine, do you foresee, if you close your eyes in your mind's eye, President Mwai Kibaki be doing those kinds of things? Do you imagine President Uhuru Kenyatta, for example, spending time, smiling and feeling nice that people are being given 200 bob, 100 bob? What are we actually doing with our people? And yet, we would put these resources in tangible development work, and then also have conversations with our people. There's nothing wrong with doing political work and even trying to convince people to get out of what they believe to do something else. But is this the way? And how long will you do that? And to what effect in the long run? And then in the process, Dibal, 2/3 of the things that are being said there are just lies. There's no truth in it. If I come to your district and tell you I'm going to do a road from here to that point, these days, the budget is in Parliament, the figures are there, and people can go and check what is being done there. So For me, I'll be very honest with the people of Kenya. I'll face our challenges honestly and very candidly, and I will go to work for the country. Because you see, sometimes you wonder whether our leaders are actually working for the country or working for their pockets. That is why, Dibal, today I brought you this as one of the things. It's very rare that people come to the studio with gifts. This is not a gift anyway, but it's a report that I think you probably may have seen. If you have not seen it, it's the Auditor General's report, a special audit on the e-citizen.
On the e-citizen.
When you look at this report, it's a classic example of why we need a new government in this country. Because everything that the Auditor General says here is basically, she describes crime, blatant crime being committed by people who have been given a responsibility. And you ask yourself the question, how then is that?
We'll come to that.
So the question is, I'm seeking leadership because I know that as a country we are better than this. We can do much better than this as a people.
Right.
And why should Kenya be denied an opportunity to have better leaders who can do a better job than this, than looting the country?
You mentioned the clergy, and 3 years ago, of course, I think you are alluding to that particular meeting you had with the clergy. You mentioned that after the COVID-19 pandemic, the new pandemic we'll be facing is the pandemic of lies. And you went full steam ahead to throw caution, warning them not to become victims of lies. So the question to you is, from your own accurate appraisement of the country right now, are Kenyans victims of lies?
Absolutely, and probably worse than that. Let me ask a very simple question. Dibal, you live in this country. If I would put a rhetorical question, what were Kenyans told in 2022 that has been done? What were Kenyans told in 2022 that has happened? In fact, the other day I saw people looking at the scorecard and saying, oh, now the administration has done 3 years and so on. And then someone was asking me, how would you score them if you had to score them? I would give them a D-. Because you see, the question is, if people tell you one thing and they don't even do it, or they do the other, or lie to you blatantly, I think people must have lost count or even lost the ability to document the level of lies that the public has been told. And I ask again, what is it that Kenyans were told through that campaign period by the administration that they have done? I mean, the answer is, that's why I argue all the time that in governments that are in power or governments that are in place always campaign on their track record. They campaign on what they have done. So either incumbents gives you an opportunity to work and very easily attract re-election or additional time, or if you don't do the work, you're punished for it. So the truth is, I think Kenyans are victims of the lies they were told. And I have been vindicated that what is happening, I said clearly to the clergy, that after the COVID pandemic, the next thing was an outbreak of lies in Kenya. So national politicians, saying virtually everything. I'll put so many billions this way, I'll put so many billions that way and so on. Where are they? I said that time, those are just lies. I went further at the meeting of the National Council for Administration of Justice and pointed out the fact that because we have a very weak campaign financing infrastructure in the country, we are allowing further bribery and extreme or an amount of incredible corruption to penetrate the electoral system. Politicians are buying seats. And I warned then that if you are not very careful, we will launder into public office or elective office individuals of questionable characters and so on. It'll be money launderers, wash characters, and all that kind of thing. What has happened since that time? We have been grey-listed by the Americans.
Yeah, we'll come to it. We'll come to the grey listing.
The EU issued a report the other day saying we are a financially insecure environment for financial transactions. So I think I have been vindicated.